Here with more on this and reaction to our top story out of Georgia and the recount, South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham. Senator, let me start with the Secretary of State of Georgia. There were others on the call, and one came to your defense and said, no, that's not what Lindsey said or did at all.
Yeah. Well, I really don't need anybody to defend me because I know what I did, and I appreciate the person coming forward. I called the Secretary of State to have him explain to me how you verify a signature on a mail-in ballot, not to throw out legal votes, but to make sure we have a system in Georgia that can verify that you are who you say you are when you vote. If you show up in person, you need an ID. You don't need an ID when you vote by mail. You go through the portal, you need an ID, but when you apply for a mail-in ballot through the mail, they have to verify your signature. A single person does that in every county election office. It should be bipartisan. Here's what I'm begging the Trump administration to do, campaign to do. Get some judge to go look at the envelopes with signatures and match them against the database with somebody that knows what the hell they're doing in front of Republicans and Democrats so we can verify that mail-in voting in Georgia is not fraudulent. When you have a single person verifying a signature, it's not bipartisan. I think that's not the way to do it. That's what I was talking about. Stacey Abrams is calling for every liberal in the country to move to Georgia. She's bragging about having 600,000 people ready to vote by mail. What I'm begging Georgia to do is make sure that if somebody votes by mail, you have a bipartisan process to verify the signature. We don't just leave it up to one person in the election office.
All right. Now, you talk to the Secretary of State. The governor can call the legislature back. They haven't done that yet. What is the reason why? Why would you have two separate systems on signatures, and why is that okay? I mean, you know, look, the more I get into, and how do you find 2,600 votes yesterday and another 2,700 votes today?
Yeah.
Okay, Lindsey, you know, your state got it right that on election night. Florida did, Ohio did, all these other states do. Just Pennsylvania, Michigan, Nevada. Interesting, the states that we're worried about.
Well, Sean, all I can say is on election night, votes came out of nowhere for Biden. Thousands showed up late in the night on election night for Biden. Weeks later, we're finding votes for Trump. All I can say is I've said on your show that voting by mail will be the end of the Republican Party if we don't have a system to verify signatures. All I'm asking for is that Georgia have a bipartisan group to verify a signature on a mail ballot, not leave it up to a single individual. Here's what I predict. If you had an audit of all these signatures on envelopes in Georgia and you had people who know what they were doing, I bet you the rejection rate would be more than 0.3%. So if we don't get a better system when it comes to voting by mail, that's the end of the Republican Party. And let it start in Georgia, folks. Stacey Abrams is trying to take over the election system in Georgia. Fight back.
Hey, by the way, you had more money thrown at you from people outside of South Carolina, Rosie O'Donnell, Barbara Streisand. We talked a lot about it. Okay,
right.
People of South Carolina weren't influenced. Now all the money from Hollywood now telling people to move there, which would be voter fraud, side note.
Right.
And all this money is going to be pouring into Georgia. Now, both those races matter, Perdue and Loeffler. I am concerned that people, you know, are looking at this shift show and a governor and a Secretary of State that have no urgency about it. They didn't get it right this time. I think the Secretary of State owes everybody in the country an answer why we got 2,700 new ballots today, 2,600 yesterday, why there's two standard. Why don't they check the signatures? Why wouldn't they do that? To ensure integrity and confidence in an election.
All I can say is that as Georgia goes, the nation goes. Democrats are calling for people to move into Georgia for the express purpose of winning these two Senate seats. I had money sent into South Carolina, but nobody asked people from California to move into South Carolina. Stacey Abrams is calling for people to move to Georgia to tip the balance of power in the U.S. Senate. If I were in the legislative arena in Georgia, I would push back because we're going to change the Supreme Court from conservative to liberal. We're going to do away with Electoral College so New York and California pick judges forever.
If they're there 30 days before the election, they can vote, and then the vote's over, they can move out. That's what they're telling people to do?
Literally. So please, for God's sake, look at changing Georgia law to neutralize what Stacey Abrams is trying to do. She's going to send in thousands, hundreds of thousands of mail-in ballots. All I'm asking is have a bipartisan group of people verify the signature, not a single person. And when it comes to moving to Georgia, have a law that makes sure you just can't move in for the purpose of taking over the Senate and move out. You got a chance to change the law, change it.
You had Twitter, Facebook, thoughts on today?
Well, they got the most power in the history of mankind. They can all conspire to tell us what we can see. They can mold how we think. They have no legal liability. They can take down your content. They can label what you say as fraudulent. You can't sue them. You have no recourse as an individual when it comes to them censoring your content. At the end of the day, Section 230 is being abused. It's now time to make them like every other media organization. When you make editorial decisions, you become an editor. If Fox News says something against me or puts somebody on television that slanders me, I can not only sue the individual, I can sue Fox News. In the world of social media, there is no accountability, there is no legal liability, and there is no government regulation. It is the wild, wild west, and we need to fix it now because it will destroy conservatism if we don't get this right.
Yeah, it was the media mob, big tech, candidate protection program, and they never asked him any questions, and he got to hide in a bunker. This race, January 5th, a lot on the line. All right, Senator. Thanks for being with us.